Excel. So if I share my screen with you all, hopefully you can all hear me okay. If you can't, just please let me know. So everyone can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can hear
Great.
you. Yeah.
That's great. Yep, so I think the recording's been started as well, which is good. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you. So if we okay, so hopefully you can all see my screen now. And so all the materials for these Excel lessons are available on this group. So if you go on your Teams, and if you click on Files at the top here, and Class Material, and you want to be selecting the MS Excel materials. So this is what I'm going to be essentially going through every single lesson. We have around about 13 lessons worth of material to go through. So today we're going to be covering a few of them. So if you click on, for example, lesson 1, you will see the slides which I'm going to be going through, and also you'll notice there's some Excel files as well in every single one of these lessons as well. These are the Excel files that you're going to be using for your exercises. So there will be exercises that you will have to do, and that will obviously improve your understanding when actually getting hands-on practice on how to use Excel as well. So if you want to follow along with me, so I'm going to be going through this Excel core 2016 lesson 1 for now, and then the structure of the lessons is going to be so I'm going to go through a lesson, we'll have a quick break, and then we'll carry on with the next lesson. And at the end of the session, I'm gonna let you guys ask any questions that you may have, and we're also going to test your knowledge as well. So there'll be, apart from the exercises that you will do for each of these lessons, we're also going to give you a short quiz to do. It's only like 10 questions, I think. So a short quiz to do, and that's just to test your knowledge, and for us to see where you guys are all at, and if you understood the lessons as well.
Sasan, just
Yes.
regarding the quizzes,
Mhm.
you can find all of them under the activities. There will be a PDF called MS quizzes um, under the activities, not the class material. So you have to go to
Yeah, yeah, but off. Yeah, I've got the
and
quiz
there
all
you will
right.
find a PDF that has the links for every one of the quizzes. So for the lesson 1, for example, you will find the link for that one and so on. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. So yeah, so the quiz will will send you the link for that quiz at the end of the lesson once it finishes, and you can do that either in the last few minutes or in your own time before the next lesson. Okay, so let's start with lesson 1. So lesson 1 is going to be just an overview of Excel. So like I mentioned before, as the lessons go on, the topics will get more advanced. So this is just obviously, this is the basics, and we're just starting out. So we're just going to go a bit of an overview, and yeah, let's go through an overview of it on Excel. So for this lesson 1, we're going to create a workbook. We're going to look into customizing the quick access toolbar, changing the workbook views and the window views, and we're going to navigate to cells, ranges, and workbook elements as well. So if you anyone wants to follow along with me, feel free to open up Microsoft Office Excel as well. So if you just create a blank workbook. So Microsoft Office Excel provides powerful tools to organize, analyze, and manage and share your information. The foundation of Excel and locations where you do your work are cells. So we refer to these small rectangles as cells, um, rows, and columns as well within a worksheet. And so right here, what I have open right now is a worksheet, and this is a workbook. So you can create a workbook by, if you open up Excel, and if you click on new and create, you can create a blank workbook from here. And currently we are on worksheet 1, which states here sheet 1. So the tools you can use while working in Excel are located on the ribbon across the top of the window. So here we have our ribbon across the top. And this ribbon is organized into task-oriented commands. So each tab is divided into task-specific command groups with commands and options that relate to the group name. You can customize the ribbon and other tabs might appear, such as developer, add-in tabs. So yeah, this is all customizable as well, which we will actually look into customizing all of this as well. So let's get familiar with the working environment of Excel and what certain things are referred to in Excel as well. So like I mentioned before, these small rectangles that you see here are cells. If we double click, we can make that cell active. Here at the top here, we have where it says book 1. This is our title bar. To the left of this title bar, we have our quick access toolbar. Here in the ribbon, we have our command groups. So each command group has its own name. So font, alignment, number, styles, cells, editing. Here we have the worksheet tab. So like I mentioned before, sheet 1. If we click on plus or add more, sheet 2, sheet 3. Here, this little section here is called our formula bar. And to the left of that, we have something called the name box. Okay. Again, our columns are here at the top and are referred to by letters. And we have our rows here to the left as well, which are referred to by numbers. Also, guys, before I carry on, if you have any questions at any point, just feel free to put your hand up as well, and I'll address your questions. So yeah. So a workbook or spreadsheet file can be compared to a physical book with many pages. When you open a blank workbook, the temporary file name will be book 1. So as you can see here. And if you open more and more, it will be called book 2, book 3, and so on. The new workbook also contains one worksheet. So by default, like I showed you previously, it was called sheet 1. We can also rename these as well. So we'll look into renaming these later on if we want to. And like I showed you previously, if you want to add more worksheets to this workbook, we can simply click on the plus sign here. So these slides that I'm going through right now, you will notice that if you have a look at them yourself as well, there will be step-by-step instructions on how to do certain exercises. Now, it's important for you to do these exercises. Although I'm going to be demonstrating some of these to you, it's important for you to actually do them yourself. That way you get a better understanding of how to actually do it. And, once you do it yourself, it's much simpler to learn as well. So highly recommend that you do go through these. So they will have step-by-step instructions on how to do these certain exercises, and you can either do them towards the end of a lesson or in your own time before the next lesson as well. So once you've started Excel, there are different ways that we can create a workbook. So if we click on this file tab here, we can either create a workbook by clicking new and creating a blank workbook. We can we can either select one of our recently selected workbooks and open one of those, or we can, if we're looking for a certain template, we can search for a template and open a template that we wish to. So for example, like this one here. And that will open the template for us. So a spreadsheet is a grid composed of rows, columns, and cells. So each worksheet column starts at the top of the worksheet. So as I mentioned previously, Each row starts at the left edge of the worksheet and contains and continues to the right edge and is identified by numbers. Each box or cell on the grid is identified by the intersection of the column and the row. So to make a reference to a certain cell, for example, here, if we click on this cell here, it would be E8. And you can see that column E and the row 8 have all been highlighted darker. And we can also see what active cell we are currently on by actually looking in the name box as well. So if we look into if you select a different cell, random cell here, so G2, also states it in our name box as well. C7, C7. So it's an intersection between a row and a column. We can enter information into a cell and that would make that cell active. So if we select on a cell, we can simply enter text into that cell if we want to, and that will obviously make that cell active because we are currently working in that cell. When you launch Excel and click a blank workbook, the program opens a new workbook and displays a blank worksheet. Now, the quick access toolbar on the left side, so this is our quick access toolbar, of less so the title bar above the ribbon gives you fast and easy access to tools you might use often. So you can move this title bar either below or above the ribbon if you want. So we can either do this by simply right clicking in where the quick access toolbar is. If we right click here and it shows, we can select this option here which says show the quick access toolbar below the ribbon, and that's just going to change the location from up here to below our ribbon. Again, we can move it back up if you wish to, if we just simply click on that area again, right click in that area and click on show above, so it's going to move it back up as well. You can also modify the commands on the toolbar so that it contains commands that you use most frequently. Now to do this, we can simply click on this drop down arrow here, and it's going to give us some options of what we can add to this quick access toolbar. So for example, if you want to add quick print to this toolbar, it will get added here. If we want to add spelling to this quick access toolbar, again, it will get added up here. If we want to remove it, we can simply just click on it again and we'll remove it for us as well. So this is, you want to customize this so, that it has your most frequently used commands that you want to use. And it saves you having time to, for example, if you have quick print here, it saves you time having to, go here and click print. Now the View tab holds commands for controlling the appearance of the displayed workbook. So currently we're on the Home tab. So if you go to the View tab, you can also open and arrange new windows and split windows for side-by-side views on different parts of your workbook. Some groups on the Ribbon tab have an arrow in the lower right corner called the dialog box. So you might have noticed for these command groups that you see here, there's a little button here that we can press, and that is called the dialog box launcher. Now, when we click this, so for example, if we select this for the font one, it's going to present us with more options for font customization. Okay, so such as alignment, border, fill, protection, and so on. So that is referred to as a dialog box launcher. These little arrows pointing down, which open extra settings. Some groups under the ribbon have that arrow in the lower corner, right corner. Some of them don't. So you'll notice, for example, if you go on the View tabs, none of these command groups have that option to open the dialog box launcher. Now, if we just so if we simply just type in something into this cell here. And if we select that cell, so we type that into cell C4, we can launch the dialog box. And from here, we can actually change some of the settings for this. So for example, set a red fill, change the font style, change the font size. And if we click OK, that's going to change that for us. So let's look into now changing the workbook view. So if we go back on the View tab, and if we click on where it says Page Layout, so in the Workbook Views command group, click on Page Layout, you'll notice that we get presented with this view. Now here at the top, we have a horizontal ruler, and here on the left, we have our vertical ruler. So what this does is it basically splits our work into pages. So here what you see on the right pane displays the additional cells that would be printed on a second page if contained entries. So essentially this is going to be our second page. So anything that we enter into these cells here, if you were to print this, that will get them printed on the second page. It wouldn't get printed on this page here. We can also look into splitting the windows. So when a workbook contains a lot of data, you can see only a small portion of the worksheet Excel. So we can use a split command that enables you to view the worksheet in two panes or four quadrants. So the split command lets you use the scroll bars on the right and at the bottom of the window to display different sections of the worksheet at the same time, so you can compare and contrast data or see what effect a change in one part of the worksheet might have on a different part of the worksheet. So to do this, if we simply click off page layout again, or go back to normal, sorry. So if you click on this to split our worksheet, we go to the window command group, and where it says split, we want to click on that. So right now, this has split our worksheet into four quadrants. And as you can see here, I can use these scroll bars. I can use these scroll bars on the left and at the bottom, to access the same workbook, but different parts of that workbook. So if you want to access certain parts, it's going to enable you to access certain parts of the workbook, but it won't all
Hi,
be contained in one worksheet.
hi,
Yeah.
Sasan. Can you please repeat this step if you don't mind?
To split the
Yeah,
window.
yeah, please. I mean, I just
Yeah,
missed it
no
somehow.
worries. Yeah. So to split it again, so if I just click off, so to split the window, so if I zoom out a bit more. So this is our normal worksheet. So again, you want to go to the View tab,
Yeah.
and currently, by default, it will be set on normal. So in the work we use command group, it will be set on normal. So to split it, we go to the window command group, and where it says split, we want to just click on that, and that will split
Sure.
our worksheet for us.
Right. Thank you.
And yeah, so and then if you want to undo that process, you will simply just click on it again, and that will get rid of it for you.
Thanks. Thank you.
No worries. So many workbooks require frequent updating because existing data has changed or new data must be added. So workers frequently open existing workbooks, update the information, and then save the workbook to be revised later. So often files are created and then used or updated by others. So this might be something that you might have come across if you work in a company. Often files are created and then updated by others. So the file name should reflect the type of data contained in the file and be descriptive so you can locate and retrieve the files quickly. So really, you wouldn't really leave this named as book one. You ideally want to name it something that a name that reflects the data in that worksheet. So for example, customer sales or house prices or something like that. So something that reflects the data that's contained within that worksheet. File names can be up to 255 characters long, including the file name extension. Most people tend to use short descriptive file names that clearly identify the contents of the workbook. So an Excel worksheet can contain more than 1 million rows and more than 16,000 columns. And there are several ways that we can navigate through a worksheet, and we can use arrow keys, scroll bars, or the mouse. So we have our scroll bars here. We can use a mouse or we can use the arrow keys. So I'm going to open one of the files that you have access to. It's going to be an Excel file. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to click on Open. And if you're following me along with me, so you want to be opening O1 Contoso Employee Info. So O1 Contoso Employee Info. And you should see something like this. So this is all available to you in the group, in the class materials section, like I showed you before. So I'm going to show you some ways to navigate around the worksheet. So once you've opened this, if you click on Control plus End, you can move to the end of the worksheet. So and also if you're working with Apple, I think it should be Command plus End. So on Windows, it is Control plus End to move to the end of the worksheet. So if you hold on Control and click on the End button, it will take us to D27. So if you previously remembered, we're currently on cell A1. If I repeat that process again, click on Control and click on End, it's going to take us to cell D27. We can again do another command, so Control Home to move to the beginning of the worksheet. So Control Home, and that's going to take us back to A1. We can also navigate to a certain cell via the name box. So if you simply type in A3, so I want to go to cell A3, and enter, that's going to take me to cell A3. We can also press Control down arrow to go to the last row of the data. So Control down, and that's going to take us to cell A27. Again, same process. We can use Control and right arrow, and that will take us back to E27. And if we click on Control down arrow from here, that's going to take us to the very, very last row in this Excel worksheet. And then again, simply we can click on Control Home, and it will take us all the way back to the top. That's just one way of navigating around the worksheet. You can also use, like I mentioned before, your mouse or the scroll bars. So yeah, so the name box indicates the current cell you're in, as well as it gives you the opportunity to name the cell range, the cell or a range. We can also use something called the go to special. So you will find this in the editing command group. So if you go to the editing command group, which is located on the far right, and if you click where it says find and select and go to special, we can also, for example, if you want to go to the last cell, we can simply click on this option here, which says last cell, and click OK. And if you take note, we're currently on cell A1. So if we click OK, we want to go to the last cell. That's going to take us to D27, which is down here. So there's different ways to navigate around a Excel worksheet. So that was lesson 1. It was a quick overview. And we looked into creating a workbook, customizing the quick access toolbar, and yeah, changing workbook views as well. So any other questions? Any questions so far? Does anyone have any questions so far? Nope. Okay, great.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
Are you able to split the panes in different ways? So because it's in quarters, are you able to do it in like half or through like vertically, horizontally?
So it's either going to be, so like I mentioned previously, it's either going to be in 2 all 4 quadrants. So it's only those 2 options. And if you go back here, you can also change how you view it by dragging these up and down. So it's either going to be 2 or 4, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, so I think that one was pretty quick. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go to lesson 2 now. So we're going to go to lesson 2. Again, the materials for this are available to you in the group. So I'm going to show you in a second. So let's go through lesson 2. So lesson 2 is going to be working with Microsoft Excel. So after this lesson, we'll take a quick 10-15 minute break before we carry on to the next lesson, which is lesson 3. And also as well, so like I'm going to mention this once again. So like I just showed you how to do demonstrated certain things on these Excel slides. There will be, for example, splitting the window. It will have all the steps on how to split a window. So ensure you do go through that, because it's good practice to actually do the exercises yourself. So for everything that I just went through, it all has steps 2 or 3 on how to do, change the page layout, how to split, how to change the font, how to do the formatting. So all the steps are there for you. So please ensure you do those steps as well. So lesson 2. So this lesson looks into creating a workbook. We're going to look into saving the workbook in alternative file formats. We're going to look into checking the workbook for any compatibility issues. We're going to look into replacing some data, adjusting the rows, row heights and column widths. And we're going to look into filling cells using autofill. And we're going to look into deleting and inserting some cells as well. So we can go ahead and close this. So create a blank workbook again, and this is what we should see. Go back on the home tab. So as I mentioned previously, the ribbon is made up of a series of tabs, each related to specific kinds of tasks that you can perform in Excel. And what you see here, especially in the home tab, are commands that people use most often when creating Excel documents. So these are the most commonly used commands here at the top. Commands that have an arrow associated with them. So for example, here we have, so if we look in the editing command group here where it says auto sum, there's an arrow associated with it. So we can click on that. So commands that have an arrow associated with them have other options available for that task. Like I mentioned previously, the dialog box launchers in the group display additional commands that are not shown in the command ribbon here. So again, this will launching this dialog box launcher for the numbers command group will provide you with additional things that you can do for that command group. So again, there will be also exercises on lesson 2 for you to follow as well. So here's going to look into creating a blank workbook and entering some text into that workbook as well. So please ensure that you do follow these exercises. And if you have any questions with any exercises that you have done, you may be stuck on, or you have any questions about it, then feel free to ask me. So when you save a file, you can save it into a folder on your computer's hard drive, a network drive, disk, CD, USB drive, or OneDrive. So once you identify where the document is to be saved, then the save process is the same regardless of where you want to save it. So when you save a file for the first time, you're asked to two questions. So where do you want to save it, and what name do you want to give this to this file? By default, all Office application documents are saved to the Documents folder or to your OneDrive, so depending on the settings of your desktop. So for example, here, if we wanted to save this, so if we just enter some text here into the cell, and if we want to go ahead and save this, we can click on the File tab, and this is going to take us to the Backstage view. So once you go click on File, this is referred to as the Backstage view. Okay. And we can simply save this file if we click on Save As, and we can simply decide where we want to save it. Click on Browse, and we just give it a name, and then simply click Save, and that will save our workbook for us. And you can also do the same process if you have your OneDrive set up, so you can save your Excel workbook onto OneDrive. And if you do have your OneDrive set up, then you will get presented with this option here. So it says OneDrive. So when you click Save As OneDrive, you will be able to then save that file into your OneDrive. So files created in Excel, in earlier versions of Excel, can be opened and revised in Excel 2016. Users who use earlier versions of Excel, so 2013, 2010, 2007, or other applications might not be able to open your file, you can save a copy of an Excel 2016 workbook to the older 2000, for example, Excel 2000, 1997 to 2003 workbook format. So if you look at this slide here, so if you, for example, save a workbook in Excel 2016, the file extension for that workbook will be .xls. If it's an older version, for example, from 97 to 2003, then the file extension will be different. So the file extension will be just XLS. The program symbol displayed with the file names is different, but you can give the earlier editions file a different name, and check which features might be lost with the Excel's compatibility checker. So we can check to see if we're saving or opening some older version of a workbook to see if any features of that are lost using the Excel compatibility checker. So to do so, we can go to File, and that's going to take us to the Backstage view again. And where it says Info, if we click on that, and where it says Inspect Workbook, if we click on where it says Check for Issues, and Check Compatibility. So for this one I've created, obviously it's in a 2016 format, so it has no compatibility issues. It says no compatibility issues were found. So if the workbook is saved in an earlier file format or opened in an earlier version of Excel, if there are any compatibility issues, the listed features will be available here. So if we look into, for example, opening a one of these Excel worksheets. So if we click on Open, Browse, and let's go to 02 Fabric and Maple Street template. So yep. Let's just open this one. So for example, we can also check the compatibility check for any compatibilities of this, for example, Excel workbook. Again, same process. Info, check for issues, check compatibility. Again, this one doesn't have a problem as well. If they did have any problems, then it will display in that dialog box there. We can also look into saving workbooks in previous Excel formats. So files created in earlier Excel versions can be opened and revised in Excel 2016. Users who use earlier versions of Excel or other applications might not be able to open your files. So if we look into saving in a different format, so if we click close this one, so if we go to File again and it takes us to the Backstage view. So if we go to Export and here click on where it says Change File Type, you can see that we have some file types that we can select. So we can save it as a workbook, or we can, for example, save it as the in Excel 97 to 2003 format. So if we click on that and click on Save As, and if I just save that somewhere on my desktop, if we take a look at this now, so it's located here. So if we right click on this now, and if we check the properties of this, so like I mentioned previously, Excel 2016, the file extension will be LSX, but for the 2000 for previous versions will be just XLS. And you can see here, this is in an older version, so the file extension for it is different as well. So through here, there's different ways different formats that it enables us to, save our workbook. So in form of a binary workbook, a macro enabled workbook, an older version, a CSV. So it provides us with various options. We can also save our workbook in the form of a PDF. So if you click on here where it says create PDF XPS document, so it's going to export our workbook in the form of a PDF and save it in the form of a PDF. So you can type data directly into a worksheet cell. You can also copy and paste information from another worksheet or from other programs. To enter data in a worksheet, the cell must be active, then you type the data. To move to the next column, you press tab. So for example, we've currently selected B7. If you want to type in something into this, it will then make our cell active. And if you want to go, if you simply click on tab, it's going to shift along to the next row. When you finish typing the entries in a row, press enter to move to the beginning of the next row. So if we press enter, instead of tab, it's going to take us to the beginning of the next row. So we can also use the arrow keys to move adjacent cells or click on any cell to make that cell active. So if we select this, now this makes cell C7 active. If we click on it, we can now see the cell is active and we can carry on typing into this cell. If you want to go out of this cell, you can simply click on escape, and now we're just on that cell isn't active. Also, you might have noticed that, for example, what I've typed into cell B3 here, it kind of flows next to the next column C. So for example, let's just type in something longer, so like a longer sentence. Now, what I've typed, this sentence that I've typed here, this does not, so if you click on, for example, cell C10, and if you look in the formula box, there's nothing going to be visible in that formula box because there's nothing in C7. What's happened is where we initially typed into B10, the text for that has just flown over to the other columns. So from here, we can change the column width. And to do so, we can simply, if I zoom in a bit more, we can go to the column, change the column width so that that entire sentence is displayed in that entire column. So if we go to where it says column B, and if we go between where it says B and C, you should see a double-headed arrow appear. So if we hover over that, over that line, a double-headed arrow will appear, and we can simply drag that along, and that will essentially just increase the width of that column to whatever we want to. And now we can see that what I typed into this cell here is clearly visible in that cell and in that column. So editing a cell's contents. So changes can be made quickly and easily in electronic records. To edit information in a worksheet, to make changes directly in the cell, or to edit contents of a formula bar. So like I mentioned previously, there's different ways that you can edit what you've just when it comes to typing into data into cells. So for example, you can either double click and carry on typing something into this cell, or you can either type something into that cell using the formula bar, and that will update it in that cell again. Now, I showed you previously that you can either drag this, or you can double click where this line is on it. It will automatically adjust the width of that column for you to fill that content. So if you just, instead of dragging it, if we simply just double click on this area here, it will just automatically set the width to the right width for me. This goes the same for when you want to adjust the row height as well. So again, same process. All you have to do is go in between the two numbers, and you should see a double-headed arrow appear, and you can simply just drag that up or down, and that will adjust the height of that row for you. So let's get rid of all of this and let's clear the contents. So if we type into this cell here, let's just type in a month. February. Just the column width again. So when you're editing a cell's content, so when you're in edit mode, the intersection point appears as a vertical bar, and most commands are active. So if you double click on this, you'll see the intersection point appear. You can move this intersection point by using the left and the right arrows, so as you wish, and you can enter something here. The edit indicator appears at the left end of the status bar. You can also use the home key on your keyboard to move the intersection point to the beginning of the cell. So if we double click on this and the intersection point is at the end, if we click on the home key, that will take us all the way to the start of the cell and move the intersection point to the start, so before F. You can also add new characters at the location of that intersection point. So again, we can type in stuff at that point of intersection. To select multiple characters while in edit mode, press Shift. So this is quite handy to use. Sorry?
Can you please repeat this step for the intersection one kindly?
Yeah, intersection. So say, for example, you have a cell here that you've typed something into. So by default, whenever you click into a cell, the intersection point will be at the end. So you can see it's blinking here.
Sure.
So if you want to move that intersection point, so if I just type in something now.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be at the end of where this intersection point is. If you want to move that to the start of that word, you can simply just click on the home button on your keyboard, and that will take it to the start.
Thank you.
Again, so it's changed the intersection point from the end to the beginning. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
No worries. Okay, so yeah, so there's to select multiple characters while in edit mode, you can use Shift. So this is quite handy to use. So say you are at the default intersection point of this word, and say you want to delete, I don't know, a few letters off of that. You can simply click on Shift, and then if we want to delete anything to the left of that word, simply click on the left arrow. You will see that Y gets highlighted, and if you click on the left arrow again, R gets highlighted, A gets highlighted, U gets highlighted. So just holding on Shift and then clicking on the left arrow key will highlight what each letter one by one, and you can then select those whatever letters you wish to, and maybe delete them if you want to. So there are several ways to modify the values or text you enter into a cell. Erasing the cell's contents, replacing the contents with something new, or editing the cell's contents. So to erase what's in a cell rather than to call the cell itself, click on the cell and then press delete. So if you want to get rid of this month here where it says February, we can simply click on this cell where it's B3, it's in B3, and then click on the delete button, and that will get rid of the contents for that. There's also a different way to do this. You can also highlight this, click on this cell, right click on it, and select where it says clear contents. So if we highlight this area and clear contents, I will get rid of the contents for that. So when you select delete from here, so if you delete this word from this cell, when you press delete, although it removes the cell's contents, it does not remove the formatting. So let's have a look at what we mean by that. So if we type into this cell, for example, here, let's type in a number. $200,000. And then we can also format this cell as well. So right now, this cell isn't formatted. So if we select this cell where it says B2, and if we go to the number command group and select from this drop down, currency, now this cell is formatted in the form of a currency. And actually, we don't even need this. It will automatically set it for us. So now that this cell is formatted, anytime I enter a number into this cell, so for example, 300, it will automatically format it for me and add the sign for whether it's pounds or dollars. So if we change it back to general, so now it's not formatted, okay? Again, we can format this, so currency, select currency, and that will change it to £300. So that saves you time having to enter, the pound symbol or the dollar symbol every single time. Now note, like I mentioned previously, using the delete button only removes the contents of that cell. It does not remove the formatting, okay? So if you click on delete, and if you type in 100 back into this, it still has the currency formatting. So it still will assign the pound symbol. So what you want to do is, in this case, in order to remove both the contents and the formatting, you want to click on that cell. And if we go to the editing command group and where it says clear, if we select on that drop down and clear format, that will get rid of the formatting for us, okay? So in order to get rid of the formatting, we actually need to get rid of the formatting, okay? So through clear and clear formatting. So using types to populate a worksheet, so you can enter the, 3 types of data into Excel, so text, numbers, and formulas. Text entries contain alphabetical characters and any other characters that do not have purely numeric values. The strength of Excel is its capabilities to calculate or analyze numbers based on numeric values you enter. Entering dates, so this is also something important. So dates are often used in Excel worksheet to track data over a specific period of time. Dates can be used as row and column headings. Dates are serial numbers, so they are sequential and can be added, subtracted, and using calculations. Dates can also be used in formulas for developing graphs and charts. So let's look into opening one of these files that you have access to. So if we go to open, browse, and you want to open O2 Fabricum sales. So I think I should have it. Okay, yeah. So O2 Fabricum sales. So lesson 2, O2 Fabricum sales. So you have access to this, so you should be able to open this as well yourself. Okay, so once you open it, you should see something like this. Now, there are different ways that you can enter dates into Excel. So for example, if we select cell B5 and type in 1 for 2017, it's gonna format the cell for us and it's gonna format the date for us as well. And again, in B6, if we type in 1-25-17, again, a different way of entering the date. If we type in Jan, so if we type in, for example, 23 Jan, you notice that it automatically changes the format for us, so it adds a dash in between the number and the month. Again, same thing, we can, for example, do 21 Jan 17. If I click enter again, so you pay attention, so let me just zoom in. So it's easy to see. So if I, for example, type in 21 Jan 17, and if I click enter, it will automatically change the format for me, okay? So it does everything for you. Again, same process. So there's different ways of doing it. You can also use the formatting here. So from this drop down, if you select here, and if you click on short date, or if you click on, for example, long date. So if we get rid of this now, and if we just enter in a date, so if we enter in a short date, so 01 03. So that changes. So that is our date in a short format. Now, if we want to change this date to a longer format, we can again do formatting and click on this drop down. And so previously we selected short date. If we select longer date, that's going to change the format again for us to 01 March 2020. So there's different ways of entering dates into Excel. So it's really up to you for which variant you opt to go for. So Excel interprets 2-digit years from 00 to 2020 to from 00 to 29 as the years 2000 to 2029. 2-digit years from 30 to 99 are interpreted as 1930 to 1990. So if you type January 28, 2020, the date will be displayed as 28-Jan-2020. The formula bar always displays the date in the month, day, 4-digit year format because that is the format required for calculations and analysis. So if you notice here, it says 23-Jan, but if you pay attention to the formula bar, it will always display the full date in the long format. So like I mentioned previously, in the month, day, 4-digit year format. Again, same thing for all of these. This is so that this format can be used for calculations and analysis. So there's also a feature in Excel called autofill. So Excel provides autofill options that automatically fill cells and data or formatting. To populate a new cell with data that exists in an adjacent cell, we can use the autofill feature either through the command or the fill handle. So the fill handle is a small green square on the lower right corner of a selected cell or range. So if we select where it says January, you will notice that a very small green box appears. this can be used. This is our fill handle, and we can use this. So if we simply drag this fill handle along, you'll notice that it's picked up that the first month is January and that the next month will be February. So it says it here. If we carry on dragging this along, it's going to pick up that we're trying to input the months, and it's going to automatically fill in the months for us, depending on how long we drag for. Okay, so it's a quick, it saves you, time to having to, enter every single one of the months one by one. You can simply click on this green box and just drag it along, and that will automatically fill in those months for you. In Excel, a range is a group of adjacent cells that you select to perform operations on all the selected cells. So, for example, if we select B5 to C9, this is a range. So we have selected a range. So instead of just selecting one single cell, which is like, for example, C5, we have selected a range. And when we select a range, whatever we do to that range, it will apply that formatting to that entire range, or whatever that we're doing. So for example, if you want to set all this range to bold, it will change all of the formatting for all of the items and cells within that range. We can also use something called the fill button, and so this is quite handy as well. So for example, say if you want to fill in these cells below with the value of this cell, we can simply click on where it says C5, and if we go to the editing command group and click on the drop down that says fill, we can select to fill downwards, to the right, upwards, or to the left. So if we select downwards, it's going to fill 275,000 downwards for all those cells that we selected. So as you can see here, now all those cells that previously had other values in them have now been filled with that first cell that we selected. So if we select January here, and if we drag it down, and if we go back down to fill and fill it downwards, again January. Again, we can do the same process across as well. So if you want to fill all the months here and replace them all with January, click on fill, and we want to fill this to the right, obviously, and that will just replace all those values. So it's quite handy if you're trying to, duplicate certain values, and it saves you having time to type every single one individually. There's also something in Excel called autofill. So let's have a look at using this. So also, before I move on to the next session, this is quite an important table to look at. So in Excel, for example, like I mentioned previously, if you type in January and you use the fill handle to drag it along, it will automatically pick up the extended series, so it will automatically fill in the rest of the months for you. So February, April, March. Same thing for numbers. So for example, if you type in, for example, 1 and you drag that, it will just duplicate 1 for all those cells. So let's have a look at what I'm saying here. So if we type in 1 into this cell, and if we drag this down, for example, it's going to duplicate 1 in all those cells. However, if we don't want to do that and we want to increase that number every single time, so if we wanted to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we type in 2 in this second one, highlight both of those cells, and then drag down, and it's going to pick up, this is a series now. It's going to pick up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is quite an important table to look at because it obviously tells you, for example, this is the initial selection that you have. For example, if you type in 1 and 2, and there'll still be the extended series for it. Same thing for, you could do, for example, days of the week. So if you do Monday, and if you generate the rest of the days, simply just drag it down, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it automatically does it for you. So in Excel, there's also something else apart from autofill called a flash fill. So flash fill allows you to quickly fill up a column of data using examples that is based on existing data in adjacent columns. So you can almost instantly create columns for the first and last names if the full name appears in another column. So after you enter the initial name, such for example, such as the first name in a column, and start to type the second item into that column, Excel will display a preview of entries formatted the same way in the rest of the column. So let's have a look at this. So if you open up O2 customers from your materials, so open O2, O2 customers, saved it somewhere else, open, browse, O2 customers, open that. So let's have a look at using flash fill here, which is really handy. So if we select cell B2, so you can see here we have customer names. We have the last name and their first name. And here we have a column for first name and last name. So flash fill is really handy. So if we select cell B2 and type in Alice, so the first name for this first customer is Alice, and in the next column, in the next cell B3, if we just look at the first name for that person, it's Aidan. So if we type in A and I, flash fill will automatically pick up that we're trying to enter and fill in the first names of those people. So if we simply just click enter here, now it's going to fill in all of the first names of all those people for me, which is really handy. So the first two letters of the second person in B3, Excel automatically guesses automatically guesses essentially that you want all the first names in column B. Again, we can do the same thing with the last name. So if we type in the last name of this first person, is that, and if we go and type in the last name of the second person, as soon as we type in D, it's going to pick up that we want to fill in all the last names of those people. Again, we can click on enter and it's going to automatically fill in all of that for you, which is really handy. So Excel's cut, copy, and paste commands are used to copy, move, and entire cells with their cell content formats and formulas. You can copy specific contents or attributes from a cell. You can also copy the value of the original cell but retain the formatting of the destination cell. So you can perform the cut, copy, and paste functions using either your mouse, the ribbon commands, shortcut commands such as Control-C, Control-V, or Control-X. So by default, drag and drop editing is turned on so you can use the mouse to copy, duplicate, or move cells. Select the cell range or the cell that you want to copy and hold down on Control while you move the pointer to the selection of the cell. So if we have a look at this now, so if I select this cell, so to duplicate, for example, a certain cell, you can either copy and paste it, Control-C or Control-V, or there's different ways of doing it. So for example, if you select a certain cell and if you hold on Control and just click on one of the borders and just drag that out, now it's going to duplicate that for us in that cell as well. Or you can, for example, Control-C and then, paste it somewhere else using the clipboard options. So the paste one, and it will just paste that for you. So there's with Excel, there's really loads of different ways that you can do, pretty much everything. So, it's all about, picking, what you feel comfortable with. So let's look into opening O2 customer houses. O2 customer houses. So here we have another workbook that has, some information about some customers and their houses. So if we select range, for example, A12 to A22, A12, all the way to A22. Again, we can Control-C this and paste it somewhere else that we want to. Or if we want, to, drag those cells, we can simply highlight those cells and click on one of the borders and drag that cell range to a specific location, and that will relocate the content of those cells depending on where we drag it to. So data can be moved from one location to another location within the workbook. So in the same way as copying. When to move a data series, select the cell or range of cells and point to the border of the selection. So like I just showed you, so point to the selection of the border and when the pointer becomes available, move the pointer to where you want to drag it to. Also, we can also look into moving, for example, these cells here. So if we select from D12 to E22, if you move these cells to a different column. So if you notice here right now, we have some numbers in these cells. So these are all the different house prices that we have here. If we, for example, move these here and move them to this range here, you'll notice that where we had the house prices, now we can't see those house prices. They've been replaced with hash symbols. So what we can do is, this is basically essentially indicating that the entries of these cells won't fit in this column. So what we can do is, like I mentioned previously, either drag this column out or double click on it to automatically set the width of that column. And now we can see that instead of hash marks, you will see actually the contents of those cells. So the width is at a necessary width for it to be displayed. And the final thing for this lesson is editing your workbook properties. So a workbook has a number of properties that are associated with it to make managing it, essentially easier. The properties include items that you indirectly change, such as, for example, file size and last edit date. So the workbook properties also include items you directly change, such as like keywords. So assigning keywords, also referred to as tags, to the document properties make it easier to organize and find documents. You can also add more notes to your file for classification and document management. So let's have a look at how we can do this. Now, to do this, to edit your properties of your workbook, you want to click on the File tab and click where it says Info. And here you should see the properties of that workbook. So here you can add in titles, tags, categories, and everything that you can enter for this workbook. You can also show additional properties here, set an author, and that makes distinguishing that workbook easier if it's if it has certain tags, so it's easier to identify. So I think that is it for that lesson. That should be it for that lesson. Yep. So for this lesson, we looked into creating workbooks, saving workbooks in alternative formats. If you have a different, if you're working with different versions of Excel, replacing data, adjusting the row height and column width, and how to use autofill and flash fill, and inserting and deleting columns and cells. So that is it for lesson 2. Does anyone have any questions so far? Nope.
Not
Guys,
for
if you
me.
have any, yep.
Not for me.
Sorry, I can't. Can you just repeat that again, please?
I said not for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. That's sorry. I couldn't hear you properly. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. I know I'm going through this a bit quickly, but we have a lot of material to go through, so No questions? Okay, so I think we could probably take a 10-15 minute break before starting the next lesson. So just to give you guys a bit of a break. So if Nour's okay with that.
Yeah, let's take 15 minutes break, and then once we get back, we'll start the rest of the session.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, so we'll take a 15-minute break and then we'll come back and start with the material for lesson 3. And once we've finished that, we'll look into doing the quiz and any other questions that you guys have.